What are signs that there's tension between you and someone? Just ask out your coworker, man. Your infatuation is based on a physical attraction. Talk to the coworker and you'll realize that you have nothing in common. Serious eye contact for me. Like when they would rather admire you than look anywhere else. It just makes it so obvious. Eye contact doesn't work for me. I have bad experience with that. I was in a club and 3 women were staring at me, smiling and such. I don't like people staring at me, so I turned away. A few minutes later, one of the women approached me and offered me a threesome. I said I'd think about it. I watched those women and saw them talking to one bloke. He was also staring at me and they kept talking while looking at me but pretending not to. When the woman came back later, I turned the threesome down. Something felt off about it. They were attempting to set me up with a honey trap. I know all the bouncers in the club, and they'd heard them talking about setting someone up, but he didn't know they were targeting me. The worst thing is, for me at least, the bloke and the woman that approached me were brother and sister. I asked friends who they were. Gareth and Claire. I would never use my sister in any way, but certainly not that. I still don't know why I was their target after nearly 15 years, but I'm glad I didn't fall for it. Hence, I don't trust eye contact. Kinda know, when tension transitions into lust, and then you both cave into it. There aren't words for that feeling. It's like when 2 magnets start to get close. First there's a quivering, the slightest hint of coming together. With each twitch it inches closer, and then almost without warning just snaps together in a burst of energy, now inseparable, an almost electric feel to skin-on-skin contact. The world around you just disappearing, your senses tuning into their every movement and breath. The intensity now increasing like ignited petrol, your hands following every curve as theirs do the same. The initial stages of eye contact and flirting are great, but I don't think they compare. Once developed this with a coworker. I was in a relationship though, and she wasn't. It happened so gradually that I didn't realize, but once it hit, I think it hit us both. There was clearly this awkward attraction, but forbidden. We were friends, close, but there was always a small wall with the knowledge it couldn't be more. It got to the point where we were texting daily, snapping, running out to grab lunch together before I finally realized I needed to step back. It never got at least in the physical sense. We never had any hands brush areas subtly or anything like that. But I think in the end there was a mutual understanding that the friendship had blossomed to something more. Something it couldn't be. I had no desire to leave or cheat on my girlfriend. I don't think she had any desire to be a home wrecker. We've both moved on to different jobs in different states, and we still snap a couple times a year. But it's something I still think about. How easy it is to fall down that rabbit hole and not even realize until it's almost too late. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's romance here, but this is really not a good metric, Mo. This happens to me constantly, both with dudes and dudettes, with no context. Just because someone does these things does not automatically mean that they want to have with you. It's the same as when people are nice to you. Just because someone is nice to you doesn't mean that they love you or are in love with you. And it goes both ways. To all the guys, if she does this, don't get too excited. She probably doesn't want to have with you. To all the gals, if he does this, don't worry. He also probably isn't trying to seduce you here. I can't stress this enough, but if there's any question on whether or not there is tension, ask the other person and go from there. Also, I know this kinda invalidates my point, but you really shouldn't take romantic advice from the internet, especially Reddit. It's like asking a blind person to drive you home. Most people are missing the point out here. For there to be tension, it means that both pots are clearly attracted to each other, not that you get hard or wet just by seeing someone. LOL, that doesn't mean they're interested. I was wondering about this as I was reading these comments. There's a regular who comes into my work who makes serious seductive eye contact with me and has a smile that looks flirty. But he's also hot AF. He's just incredibly attractive. So just because it's making me turn to jelly doesn't mean it's anything other than just being friendly and having a regular smile to him. Me reading all responses to get clues and notes. I was attracted to this guy I worked with. And I would do my best to keep it professional and not throw too much flirting, but he seemed really shy, so another reason why I wouldn't push it too much. It'd catch him looking at me and instantly look away when he'd see I noticed. We'd chat about work, and times it would get a little quiet and kinda would just look at each other and get back to work. Okay, maybe he has interest, I thought. One day I told him he was cute and didn't get much of a response back, so I thought, okay, maybe he's not interested, I'll drop it. Totally fine. One day he talking with someone I thought was a customer he was helping. It happened to be his girlfriend, hence the kiss they quickly exchanged in front of me. That day I was kindly reminded not everyone is single and lonely as I am, lol. I was so embarrassed I couldn't help but laugh at myself and feel bad I was flirting with someone's boyfriend, not even knowing. I mean, forgive me, we don't walk around with labels on our foreheads. I instantly apologized to him later, letting him know I was completely unaware if I ever flirted with him. Sometimes men can be very confusing at reading. All these losers not ignoring women's stated level of consent. If they were cool and wanted to, they'd ignore that she hasn't explicitly agreed to wanting and go full steam ahead and hope she was on board. Is basically invariably the message of these threads. Women can and should be encouraged to express interest as well. The idea that if I hint enough, I don't have to say it is toxic as, and people erring on the side of caution shouldn't be something to ridicule. Oh well, that's my soapbox. It can manifest in a lot of ways. Usually tension develops when two people are attracted to somewhat attracted to each other. The funny part is, sometimes they aren't even fully conscious of it, or want to acknowledge it. That is where the tension lies. There is a reason why both are not participating in healthily acknowledging attraction for each other. It can look like tense awkwardness, constant fighting, overt flirtatiousness without any progression, and even consciously ignoring, avoiding the other person. When you can feel each other across the room. This one hit me pretty hard. I knew my wife for about a year before we went on our first date. We had crossovers in friend groups, but would not see one another often. When we did, it was like trying to keep magnets apart. Our group had a summer of weddings one year where we managed to see one another at multiple weddings. We would see each other, but were either in the party or with a date, resulting in limited communication or interaction, but I could feel her looking, and we locked eyes often. The second to last wedding of that year actually had us paired up in a wedding party. We danced, and she smelled like lavender and my future. The lavender set me off, and I think at that point she clearly understood where I was at. It's been 10 years and 2 kids, and we still don't look back. I'm in a flirty situation with a co-worker. We were out last night. He sat next to me, and we ticked most of these boxes. Not the too obvious ones like hair touching, although as we got drunk and he started putting his head on my shoulder, my hand did wander to his neck base of his head, just lightly stroking his shaved short hair for a second. I love that texture. For most of the night we were talking to different people, sat next to each other but with our chairs positioned perpendicularly, with our backs, shoulders touching or leaning on each other. Both not moving to readjust the way you would do when touching a regular colleague. Spending time together but subtly. It's so much fun. It's hard to explain. Basically, it's a nervous, delicious, breathless feeling when they are close to you. You both go out of your way to stand just a little bit closer to each other. The sad thing is, some people think they feel this with someone just because the other person is being friendly and misread signals. I once had a guy insist that we had tension simply because I'd twist my hair. He told me that twisting my hair was signally told him that I had been twisting my hair rise a nervous habit since I was a toddler. But of course he wanted to believe I was interested and insisted that I must secretly want him. Last year there was this check cashing place where I went to pay my electric bill. It was usually staffed by a little old lady. But when I went in this time there was this ridiculously hot woman there. She had this aura, this vibe about her that was mesmerizing, and also very warm. She smiled a lot, and laughed even more. I went up to the counter, and there was an eye contact moment that damn near had me gasping for breath. It took me almost 25 minutes to pay my bill because we started talking and joking and laughing and generally acting like we really enjoyed each other's company. When I left, I felt like I was coasting on a magic carpet about 3 feet off the ground. Over the next 6 months, this behavior continued. I watched her with other customers, and she was still awesome and friendly, but not the way she was with me. She had also started asking me what I was doing over the weekend, yet I still held back from asking her out. Finally, the day came when I was in there and we were busy being in our own little world, and she starts singing this Beatles tune. I want you so bad. I want you so bad, it's driving me mad. It's driving me mad. While, giving me a smoldering look, I sang it back to her, with my own smoldering look, and then left. All the way home I was berating myself like, you complete gaping ass. Why? Why did you do that? I got home and asked my boyfriend forever, Rumi, and his girlfriend if it sounded like this woman was into me. Best friend forever, Rumi goes, dude, why didn't you make a move? His girlfriend says, women don't do things like that if they aren't into you. Go back there and ask her out. If you don't, she won't give you another chance. So I ended just that. She gave me the biggest smile and said, I really want to. I do, but unfortunately I quit on guys, and now I'm in a relationship with a woman. I don't continue trying to hook up with women after the first no. I just don't. Plus, the I'm a lesbian response is known to be a major dodge women use to avoid a dude. Except, when she's really a lesbian. So I went no problem and turned to leave when she says, wait. There's no reason we can't go out and just see how things go. My girlfriend and I have an understanding. Here, take my hash and call me later tonight or tomorrow. So I did. She answers, says, hey, can I call you right back? Someone is at the door. Sure, no problem. I hang up, and I never heard from her or saw her again because the next time I went in there, she was, get this, no longer employed there. Man, just what the eternal? I could have sworn that I did not misread her intent. I even had a woman tell me so. And I know I was not being stalky or creepy because I bent over backwards and sideways to avoid that. Yet, this is why I no longer even pretend to participate in mating rituals. If I can misread a sure thing like this, I got no chance. I once had a half-naked girl in my bed, and I still don't know if she wanna bang or not. And here that just happened last week. Had a woman fully naked, and I misunderstood the situation. It is never clear. Was a friend who asked me to come over and help her with something. Came over and she was in the shower. She came out in an undone robe. I was sitting in her living room. She steps in and says, 1 sec. I'm just chilling in her living room. She comes back out a little bit later without the robe. Made a few comments, and we were chatting as she walked out of the room. I followed her into the bedroom since she was still talking to me, and I made assumptions. There was no tension or intention there on her part. She was just comfortable with herself and me. I met my wife at a Halloween party a week or so before being deployed for the army. That first night went remarkably well considering the two of us slept on a couch with her in a costume that was, by that point, just lingerie. And when I say slept, I mean exactly that. We went to sleep. I asked her out the next day, and we went on a total of 3 dates that culminated with a kiss and my giving her my peacoat since I'd have no use for it where I was headed. 7 years later, I found myself thinking about her and discovered that she just happened to live in the same city as my future best man who I'd been planning on stopping in and seeing before returning to college. I suggested that we go to lunch and catch up. I was mildly surprised when she agreed. Lunch went well, so we moved from that to drinks, and from drinks to an offer to go back to her place and watch a movie. By the end of the marathon day, I was fully prepared to head to my friend's house, but she insisted that I'd be better off sleeping at her place. I assumed she'd meant on the couch, but she indicated that the bed was more comfortable. I agreed that this was likely true and so headed in that direction. She then announced that she tended to sleep nude, stripped naked, and climbed into bed. We then went sleep. The following morning, we both were of the opinion that we should get together again. She then asked whether or not I wanted my old coat back. I was a bit taken aback. It was a peacoat from Old Navy, and I'd not thought of it in years, and was frankly surprised that she still had it, all things considered. I told her that it had been a fit. And so we parted ways after agreeing to meet for dinner later. My future best man was full of questions about the evening, supposing it had gone incredibly well, and it had, just not the way he thought. While the previous day had been mildly confusing, I'd seen no particular reason to suppose that it had been anything but, a friend kind of thing. He insisted that I was daft for not recognizing that I'd been on a date, and that the evening's meal at her place was also clearly a date. So I texted my future wife and asked, "Are we dating?" And this woman, having just witnessed the full breadth of my utter inability to recognizing that a naked woman asking you to sleep in their bed as an invitation to do something other than sleep, responded with, "Of course." Years later, when we were getting married, there was a part of me that wondered if she was marrying me, but as a friend. I'd not call myself a lesbian, but I certainly fit the stereotype. After a gathering at an acquaintance's quite hot brunette place, while we were all getting ready to leave, she asked me in front of everyone if I wanted to stay a bit more. I've got a few envious looks by all the males in the company and said sure. She proceeded by suggested we watch a movie. I said sure. She selected Wild Things. I said I've seen it, it's not that great. She suggested again the original scene with Angelina Jolie having hot with Banderas. I said yeah, it's an alright one. She put it on. Sometime close to the middle of the movie, with me being as awkward as possible, she stretches her legs and says, "Oh, this is the good part." Oh God, I so miss having a good while looking straight into my eyes, not even blinking. So I replied casually, "Well, you're great, I hope you can find someone that can cover that." At this point her expression was a combination of disbelief, disdain, and confusion. She switched off the movie and just said, "I'm tired. You should leave because I need to get enough sleep so that I can start looking for that guy by tomorrow." I left. I'm reading a bunch of these posts and think it's worth clarifying that there's a difference between there being tension between a guy and a girl, and the girl actually wanting to have. I think tension is pretty easy to spot. It's body language. Does the girl try to sit closer to you? Laughter. Is she smiling, laughing at your jokes that probably aren't that funny? Eye gaze. Is there eye contact, or does she glance at your mouth? And just sheer time spent. Does she want to hang out a lot? Those things don't always mean she wants to hook up though. Only way to really know is to make a move, respectfully, and see how she reacts. A girl can be totally naked and still not want to hook up. At the end of the day, fellas, just ask. No harm in asking. It's pretty hot, to be honest. Shows confidence. Pre-COVID, I worked with someone like that. She always had excuses for coming by Cube every day. I didn't mind it at all. If anything, sort of wished she'd do it more often. And B, don't dip your pen in company. I know, shut up. Anyway, she made excuses to talk to me, complimented me a bunch, sometimes put her hand on my wrist when we talked, held eye contact with me longer than she did with other people. When she did that, I noticed her pupils dilate a bit while her breath became shorter and her pulse rate picked up. Usually sat next to me during company events like lunches or Christmas parties or whatever TF, and other behaviors too. No, none of that stuff was lost on me. She was an amazing woman, and literally the only reason I didn't go for it is because we worked together. I'm so glad I'm a girl. I can just ask and always get a yes. Even if it's a no, I'm pretty certain the man would be flattered and nice about it. Maybe standing a little too close, like not being a close talker, that is annoying. But if you're both looking at something standing a little, like a few more inches closer than what's customary, we all have our space. And it's socially acceptable to be only so close. You sort of know when you're close enough, but if you just push that boundary like by 2 inches, and he doesn't move, light, casual touching, like if you already have his attention and you think of something you meant to tell him but forgot, and you're like, "Oh wait, listen to this," and you do a light multiple finger touch on his forearm that isn't necessary because he is already looking, and let it linger for 1 second longer than your instincts say, and then low-key you'll innuendo. Super suggestive language, but innocently. You will definitely get a read from his response to that. This is less about flirting and more about the reaction you notice from this stuff. And when you accidentally brush against him, do so with your breasts only, and wait for the response. I have Asperger's, and this stuff is infuriating. It's like the whole world is dancing to music I can't hear. I can't pick up on Yule tension until we're doing hard drugs together, an example of unhealthy coping. Thanks for refusing to put me in the free therapy the school offered, Mom, and we're both ready to anything with a pulse. It's super unfulfilling, and I'm newly sober, so that's out. Need to figure out a way to understand you humans. I often wish I had the autism worse, those ones who don't need a football helmet in non-football situations but are just in their own world. They don't care about social interaction, but I wanted, but missed so much, and spent my entire life with the less than ideal strategy of medicating myself with dark web drugs, and now I'm sober and so lost. One time my grade school teacher told me to make eye contact with him when I talked to him. I carried that lesson with me through life, thinking eye contact is important and respectful. And now, as a young adult, I prioritize making strong and direct eye contact with everyone I speak to. Sometimes I even catch myself looking deep into people's eyes when I'm trying to otherwise talk to them. I do it to anyone from coworkers to friends, family, strangers, and random store employees. Anyway, this comment section is really making me think about that as a habit. I know this doesn't answer the question. Sorry, not sorry. I'm what I suppose is a fairly typical man, so typically I'm bad at reading signs, and other than the well-known tropes of laughing at his jokes, her touching her hair, and occasional warranted physical contact, such as touching an arm, a knee, etc. And again, typically I can only actually see these things when it's to other people, not if it's happening to me. As a man, if I am feeling Yule tension around a woman, attraction to her, firstly, I am always convinced she not only senses it, but actually sees it as a massive neon sign on my head. I exhibit awkwardness, conversational trouble, avert my eyes, and generally make a hash of any social interaction. This is heightened in relation to the level of attraction to her I am experiencing, to the point where if I am full-on crushing on a woman, I end up avoiding her altogether because I'm so awkward in her presence. I prefer to just not be there. If both parties are mutually aware and into it, but somehow thwarted by circumstances for the time, and hence tension, it's eye contact. All about the eye contact. Lingering glances, knowing looks, watching them from afar, etc. In that scenario, it is amazing how much can be communicated with the eyes alone. When there's prolonged eye contact with one another, you'll definitely notice it if you're usually the one that looks away. It's like 3 seconds or some. You can definitely feel when it's happening. And then you'll probably try and keep eye contact a little longer than them. And then they look away, and you're confused, and rethink if it's even anything. Then you realize you're both married, and it would never happen, huh? But then she prolongs eye contact a few days later, and it's like, what the? The people around you start trying to make y'all a thing. My wife and I met doing a play at community college. She was dating someone else at the time, but our director could see what was what. The second play we did, Picasso at the Lap and Agile, she selected specifically for a scintillating scene between my Picasso and her floozy. Of course, boyfriend found out and forbade her taking the part. So instead of my bombshell wife, I had a quiet, reserved Vietnamese girl. Things ended for wife and her boyfriend shortly after she got a bit turned and dropped her program during the scene in question. He picked it up and gave her a "you dropped this" W accompanying death glare. That was about the end of that. So of course we invited our director to the wedding later. Very glad she could come.